Ronald Ashton's headlights caught through the blinding Christmas Eve snow, revealing something that made his blood run cold. Two small figures collapsed on the roadside, covered in bruises, barely breathing. "Please, sir, don't take us back. She'll hurt us." What Ronald discovered that night, when he saw those poor twin girls abandoned and starving, would lead him down a path of buried secrets, twisted family betrayals, and a truth so shocking it would leave him absolutely stunned. Before we continue, please tell us, where in the world are you tuning in from? We love seeing how far our stories travel. The snow was falling hard that Christmas Eve. Ronald Ashton squinted through the windshield as the wipers worked overtime, clearing the thick flakes that seemed determined to bury the world in white. Beside him, 10-year-old Andre pressed his face against the passenger window, his breath fogging the glass. "That house has icicle lights, Dad! And that one has a giant snowman!" Ronald smiled despite the weight pressing on his chest. This tradition, driving around to see Christmas lights, was one of the few things that still felt normal. One of the few things that hadn't been stolen by piles of bills and grief. "Should we head home, buddy? It's getting pretty bad out here." "Just one more street?" Andre's brown eyes, so much like his mother's, pleaded. "All right, one more."
Ronald turned onto a quieter road, one that cut through a less populated area. Fewer houses, fewer lights. Just darkness and snow and... His foot slammed on the brake. The car slid slightly before stopping, and Andre lurched forward against his seatbelt. "Dad, what... Do you see that?" Ronald's voice was barely a whisper. In the beam of his headlights, two small figures sat huddled together on the side of the road. Children. Little girls pressed against each other, trembling violently. "Dad!" Andre's voice cracked with panic. "Those are kids!" Ronald's blood turned to ice. He threw the car into park and grabbed his coat from the back seat, his hands shaking. As he stepped out into the biting cold, the full horror of what he was seeing hit him like a physical blow. Two little girls, identical twins, no more than 8 years old. Their long blonde hair was matted with ice and snow. Their clothes, thin, inadequate, soaked through, clung to skeletal frames. Their lips had a blue tinge that made Ronald's stomach drop. But what made his hands clench into fists were the bruises. Dark, ugly marks, visible even in the dim light. On their arms, their faces, everywhere. "Hey," he said softly, kneeling in the snow. "Hey, sweethearts. My name is Ronald. Can you hear me?" One of the girls tried to speak, but her teeth were chattering so violently no words came out. They stared at him with hollow, terrified eyes. Ronald draped his coat around both of them. They barely reacted. Their bodies shook so hard, it looked painful. "Andre," Ronald called, "turn the heat all the way up." He scooped both girls into his arms. They weighed almost nothing, like holding birds, and carried them to the car. Andre had already cranked the heat and was pulling off his own jacket. "Put this on them, Dad," Andre said, his young face pale with shock. Ronald settled the girls in the back seat, wrapping them in both coats and the emergency blanket from the trunk. Their shivering was so violent, the entire seat shook. Andre climbed into the back with them, pressing close to share his body heat. "We need to get them to a hospital," he said urgently. But when the word hospital left his lips, panic flashed in the girls' glazed eyes. One of them grabbed Ronald's arm with surprising strength. "No, sir. Please don't take us back. She'll find us." Ronald's jaw tightened. Every instinct screamed that these children needed immediate medical attention, but the terror in their eyes told him something worse was waiting for them wherever back was. "I'm not taking you back anywhere," he said firmly. "But you're freezing. You need help." "Home," the other girl whimpered. Can we just go somewhere warm? We won't be trouble. We'll be good. We promise. We'll be good.
Ronald looked at Andre, who nodded urgently, then back at these two terrified children who would rather risk dying from hypothermia than return to wherever they'd come from. "Okay," he said, softly. "We're going to my home. You'll be safe there, I promise." The tiniest nod from both girls. As Ronald drove, his knuckles white on the steering wheel, Andre spoke gently to the twins. "What are your names?" A long pause, then barely audible. "Kelly, and this is Nellie." "I'm Andre. How old are you?" "8." "How long have you been out here, in the snow?" The girls looked at each other. Kelly, who seemed slightly more alert, whispered, Since this morning." Andre's voice rose. "You've been outside for 8 hours in a snowstorm?" Ronald's hands gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles went white. 8 hours. On Christmas Eve, in freezing temperatures. These children could have died. What kind of monster does this to children? At home, Ronald ran a warm bath. Not hot, he knew warming them too quickly could be dangerous. The girls sat in the tub together, still trembling, while Andre brought them cups of warm water to sip slowly. As Ronald prepared soup in the kitchen, his mind raced. He'd lost his wife Clara 18 months ago, watched her fade from a vibrant, beautiful woman into a ghost of herself as the autoimmune disorder ravaged her body. The experimental treatments had drained their savings, left them drowning in debt. He'd been barely holding his own life together. And now this, two abused, starving children who'd literally appeared out of the snow. "Clara, if you can hear me, what do I do?" But he already knew. There was only one thing to do. When the girls emerged from the bathroom wrapped in towels, Ronald saw the full extent of their condition. They were skeletal, ribs visible through pale skin, bruises in various stages of healing covered their bodies, old scars, new scars. Andre dressed them in his old pajamas, rolling up the sleeves and pant legs. Ronald saw tears streaming down his son's face, but the boy said nothing, just helped the girls with gentle hands. At the kitchen table, Ronald placed bowls of soup and crackers in front of them. The girls stared at the food like they didn't believe it was real. "It's okay," Ronald encouraged. "Eat slowly. Take your time." They ate desperately, fast, barely chewing. Ronald had to gently slow them down, explaining that eating too quickly after prolonged starvation could make them sick. When they scraped their bowls clean, they looked at him with such hope it broke his heart. "Would you like more?" Their eyes widened in disbelief. "We can have more?" "You can have as much as you need," Ronald said firmly. "Always." After second bowls, the violent shivering finally stopped. Andre suddenly stood up and ran to his room, returning with his arms full of toys, a stuffed bear, coloring books, crayons, a wooden puzzle. "These were my favorites when I was younger," he said shyly. "You can have them, if you want." Nellie reached out and touched the stuffed bear's soft fur, her eyes filled with tears. "For us, sir?" "Yes, sweetheart, for you." Ronald sat down then, his voice gentle but serious. "Girls, if it's okay, I need to understand what happened. Where are your parents?" The twins exchanged a glance, then Kelly spoke. "Our mom and dad died when we were 3. We don't really remember them." Ronald's chest tightened. "Who's been taking care of you?" "Our Aunt Nika, Mama's sister. We live with her and Uncle Derek and our cousin." "And today? What happened today?"
Kelly's hand went to a bruise on her arm. "We asked for more food at breakfast. We only get 1 meal a day. Today we got a small bowl of oatmeal, but we were so hungry. When we asked for more, Aunt Nika got really angry. She said we were greedy and ungrateful," Nellie continued, her voice breaking. "She said if we wanted more food, we could go out and beg for it. She threw us outside, said we couldn't come back until we earned money or found our own food." Ronald felt rage building in his chest.
This happens often? Both girls nodded, tears streaming from their faces. Aunt Nika says we eat too much and don't work enough. But we're always hungry, sir. We clean and cook and wash everything in the house all day. Our cousin doesn't have to do anything. And when we cry or complain, she hits us with her belt, or locks us in the basement, or throws us outside and tells us to go beg. What about your uncle? Uncle Derek tries to help sometimes, gives us food when Aunt Nika isn't looking, says he's sorry, but he never stops her. He says he has our cousin to think about. Andre moved closer to the twins, his young face fierce with determination. You're not going back there, right, Dad? They can stay with us.
Ronald looked at his son, at the boy who'd lost his mother but still had room in his heart to love, and then at these two broken little girls who'd nearly frozen to death. His savings were gone. He was drowning in debt. The mortgage was 3 months behind. This would be their last Christmas in this house. But none of that mattered. Yes, he said, you're staying here. You're safe now. Ronald glanced at the clock. Nearly midnight. Christmas Day was minutes away. An idea formed. Andre, help me with something. While the twins dozed on the couch wrapped in blankets, Ronald and Andre worked quietly. They brought out the small artificial tree Ronald hadn't planned to put up this year, trying to save money. Andre hung ornaments while Ronald strung lights. They pulled out stockings, including 2 that had belonged to Clara. Mom would want them to have these, Andre whispered. Ronald blinked back tears. Yes, she would. They wrapped the few presents Ronald had bought for Andre, then raided Andre's room for more things to wrap, books, toys, anything that might bring joy. By the time they finished, it was past midnight.
Ronald and Andre stepped back to admire their work. The tree glowed softly in the darkened living room, presents nestled underneath, stockings hanging by the fireplace. "It's perfect, Dad," Andre whispered. "Let's get some sleep," Ronald said quietly. "We'll let them discover it in the morning." They headed to bed, leaving the lights on. A few hours later, as dawn began to break on Christmas morning, Kelly stirred on the couch. Her eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the soft glow around her. Then she saw it. She sat up quickly, her heart racing. The Christmas tree, the lights, the presents, the stockings. "Nellie," she whispered urgently, shaking her sister awake. "Nellie, wake up. Look." Nellie's eyes fluttered open. When she saw what Kelly was seeing, her mouth fell open. They both stood slowly, as if moving too quickly might make it all disappear. They shuffled toward the tree, their bare feet patting softly on the carpet. Then they stopped, frozen in wonder. The tree glowed with warm white lights. Real presents sat underneath, wrapped in colorful paper. Stockings hung by the fireplace. Snow fell softly outside the window. 4 mugs sat on the coffee table, ready for hot chocolate. Is this real?" Nellie whispered, tears already filling her eyes. Footsteps on the stairs made them turn. Ronald appeared, with Andre right behind him. "Merry Christmas," Ronald said softly. "I know yesterday was awful. I know you've been through things no child should ever experience. But right now, you're safe. You're warm. You're fed. And you're part of this family." Kelly and Nellie stared, mouths open. Tears began streaming down their faces, but these weren't tears of pain. "Is this for us too?" Nellie whispered. "This is for all of us," Andre said, taking their hands. "Come on, you can open presents." The next hour was pure magic. The twins opened gifts with trembling hands, gasping with delight at every book, every stuffed animal, every coloring book. Andre showed them how to make hot chocolate mustaches, and for the first time, Ronald heard them laugh. They watched an old Christmas movie together, all four piled on the couch under blankets. The twins ate cookies Andre had baked earlier that week. Slowly, gradually, some of the fear left their eyes. As the morning went on, Kelly and Nellie were curled up on either side of Ronald. Andre had his head on Ronald's shoulder. Ronald looked at these three children and made a silent vow. Whatever it took, whatever he had to sacrifice, he would keep them safe. This was their family now. Have you ever had a moment that changed the entire direction of your life? Sometimes we don't get to choose these moments. They choose us, and what we do next defines who we really are. Don't go anywhere. This story is just beginning. The days after Christmas blurred together in a whirlwind of phone calls and paperwork. Ronald contacted Child Protective Services, then the police. A doctor examined the girls, documenting their injuries, their malnutrition, the signs of prolonged abuse. The police arrested Nika within the week. But the twins remained skittish. They still called him Sir. They hoarded food in their room, eating carefully as if each meal might be their last. They flinched at sudden movements. Nightmares woke them screaming every night. Yet, slowly, things began to shift. Andre became their champion. He shared everything, taught them games, read them stories at night. The longing he'd always had for siblings poured into Kelly and Nellie like water on parched earth. The twins started to trust. They began saying Mr. Ronald instead of Sir. Kelly laughed at one of Andre's jokes. Nellie asked if she could help make breakfast. They started acting like children instead of prisoners. But as they grew comfortable, they shared more stories. Stories that made Ronald's blood boil. Sleeping in the unheated basement, being locked in closets for hours, the welts on their backs from being struck with a belt, going days with only one small meal, being forced to do all the housework while their cousin did nothing. The detective in charge pulled Ronald aside after taking their statements. "Mr. Ashton, I need to be honest with you. Without hard evidence, photos, videos, additional witnesses, it's her word against theirs. A good defense attorney will say the kids are traumatized and confused." "That's not good enough," Ronald said flatly. "I understand. We'll do everything we can, but I want you to be prepared." Ronald visited Nika in holding. The woman was in her late 30s with harsh features and cold eyes. She looked at him with pure disdain. You filled their heads with lies. Those girls were wild, disobedient. I was teaching them discipline." "Discipline?" Ronald's voice shook. "You starved them, beat them, threw them out in a snowstorm to die." "They're lying, just like their mother lied." Nika's face twisted with rage. "Lily always got everything, always the favorite, the beautiful one. I loved Paul first, but she stole him from me. He should have been mine. We were meant to be together, but she swooped in and he chose her. She got the wealthy husband, the nice house, the children, everything." Ronald stared at her, understanding dawning like ice water down his spine. "You tortured two innocent children because you were jealous of their dead mother?" "Those kids reminded me every day of everything I should have had, everything Lily took from me." "You're not just cruel," Ronald said quietly. "You're pathetic." "I don't need to explain anything to you," Nika snarled. "Those kids are liars, just like Lily was. Bad kids who needed punishment. And without proof, I'll walk free." Ronald could barely contain his rage. "You'll answer for what you've done," he said quietly. "If not to me, then to a judge." He left the holding cell, his hands shaking. But the system worked slowly, too slowly. The prosecutor warned that Nika would likely be released on bail. Without concrete evidence, the case might not go to trial. Ronald couldn't sleep. He'd used his last savings to hire a lawyer for adoption proceedings. He'd taken out another loan just to cover expenses. The twins were thriving, finally acting like children, laughing, playing,
healing under his and Andre's care. His son had found purpose in being the big brother, and Kelly and Nellie were beginning to bloom. But Ronald couldn't protect them if Nika walked free. Then he remembered. Derek. The uncle who'd stood by for years while his wife tortured two innocent children.
Ronald found Derek's address and drove there one evening. The man who answered looked tired, defeated. When Ronald explained who he was, Derek tried to close the door. "I can't help you. I won't testify against my wife." "Even though you know what she did? Even though you watched it happen?" "I have a son to think about. He needs his mother." "Your son watched his mother abuse two little girls for years. What does that teach him? What kind of man will he become if you show him that witnessing cruelty and doing nothing is acceptable?" Before Derek could respond, a young boy appeared behind him, about 12 years old. His face was tear-streaked. "Dad," the boy said quietly, his voice trembling, "if you won't tell the truth about what Mom did to Kelly and Nellie, I will." Derek's face crumbled. He looked at his son, really looked at him, and Ronald saw the moment something broke inside the man. The justifications, the rationalizations, the carefully constructed walls he'd built to avoid facing the truth. The boy continued, tears streaming down his face. "I have nightmares about it, Dad. About the things I saw. About how scared they always were. I can't live with this anymore. And I can't grow up thinking this was okay."
Derek leaned against the doorframe, his face in his hands. When he looked up, his eyes were red and broken. "Come inside," he said hoarsely. "I'll tell you everything." The courtroom was small and stuffy. Ronald sat with the twins, who wore matching dresses donated by a local charity. They held his hands so tightly his fingers went numb. Nika sat at the defense table looking confident, almost smug. Her lawyer had spent the morning dismantling the twins' testimony, suggesting they were confused, traumatized, projecting their pain onto a well-meaning aunt. The judge was reviewing his notes, clearly preparing to dismiss the case, when the courtroom doors opened. Derek walked in, a manila envelope under his arm. His son walked beside him. Nika's face went white. "Your Honor," Derek said, his voice steady despite the visible tremor in his hands, "I'd like to testify." What followed was damning. Derek described years of abuse in excruciating detail. The beatings, the starvation, the psychological torture. Every incident he'd witnessed and done nothing to stop. But more importantly, he had evidence. Security camera footage from their home. Time-stamped videos showing Nika striking the girls, forcing them outside in the cold, screaming at them, denying them food. Derek had been recording for months, unable to intervene, but unable to destroy the evidence. "I was a coward," Derek said, his voice breaking. "I told myself I was protecting my family. But what kind of family was I protecting? My wife was a monster, and I enabled her. These girls deserved better." He looked at Nika, who sat frozen in shock. "I should have stopped you years ago. I should have reported you the first time I saw you hit them. My silence made me complicit in your cruelty." Then he turned to Kelly and Nellie. "I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I wasn't braver. You deserved an adult who would protect you, and I failed." He faced the judge again. "I'm filing for divorce. My son and I are moving to start over, and I hope that by doing this, by finally telling the truth, I can teach him that it's never too late to do the right thing." The courtroom was silent, except for quiet crying. Kelly and Nellie clung to Ronald, their small bodies shaking with relief and pain. The judge's verdict was swift and harsh. 15 years in prison for multiple counts of child abuse, neglect, and endangerment. As the bailiff led Nika away, she didn't look back. As they left the courthouse, the twins clung to Ronald. "You did it," Kelly whispered. "You saved us, Mr. Ronald." "We all did it together," Ronald said softly. "You were brave enough to tell the truth. Derek was brave enough to finally do the right thing, and we all made sure justice was served." Sometimes justice takes time. Sometimes it requires someone to finally find the courage to do what's right. If this story has moved you, hit that like button, because we all need reminders that truth still matters.
3 months later, the adoption was finalized. Kelly and Nellie Williams became Kelly and Nellie Williams Ashton. Andre was over the moon. But Ronald was drowning. The loans, the legal fees, the cost of caring for 3 children on one income. He took on weekend bookkeeping jobs, cut expenses to nothing, sold anything of value. The kids never went hungry, never lacked essentials. But Ronald often skipped meals himself. He didn't care. They were safe. They were healing. They were thriving. The twins had transformed. They laughed freely now, called him Dad without hesitation. The nightmares had lessened. They'd gained weight. Their bruises had faded. Then, one afternoon, a well-dressed man knocked on their door. "Mr. Ashton, my name is Harold Green. I was the attorney for Paul and Lily Williams, the twins' parents. I've been searching for Kelly and Nellie for 5 years." Ronald's heart sunk. Was someone trying to take them away? But Mr. Green's expression was kind, almost relieved. "May I come in? This is going to sound unusual, but I promise it's good news." Inside, Mr. Green set his briefcase on the table and pulled out a thick folder. When Paul and Lily died in that accident, they left behind a substantial trust fund for their daughters. I was named the trustee. But there was a problem. Nika refused to complete the legal guardianship paperwork. She took the girls, but she never officially became their legal guardian. Without that documentation, I couldn't access the trust or even confirm where the children were.
He opened the folder showing Ronald official documents. "For 5 years, I've been monitoring every child welfare case in this state and 3 surrounding states. I've been checking foster care records, adoption proceedings, hospital admissions, anywhere these girls might appear in the system. I hired a private investigator. I filed missing persons alerts. I even contacted every elementary school in a 100-mile radius." Mr. Green's voice grew thick with emotion. "When you finalized the adoption, their new legal names entered the public records database. That triggered an alert in my monitoring system. After 5 years of searching, I finally found them." Ronald stared, hardly daring to believe it. The trust was established to ensure Kelly and Nellie would never want for anything. Paul was from old money and a successful investment banker. Lily was hardworking and dedicated. Together they built something substantial for their daughter's future. He slid papers across the table. "The full amount, which I'm not at liberty to disclose until the girls turn 18, is held in trust and invested conservatively. But as their legal guardian, you're entitled to monthly distributions for their education, healthcare, housing, food, clothing, and general welfare. The amount is calculated to provide them with a comfortable, middle-class life." Ronald picked up the papers with trembling hands. The monthly amount listed made his eyes blur with tears. It wasn't extravagant wealth, but it was enough. Enough to pay off his crushing debts, enough to keep the house, enough to stop skipping meals, enough to finally breathe, enough to give all 3 children the life they deserved. "There's one more thing," Mr. Green said gently, pulling out a sealed envelope. "Lily wrote letters to her daughters before she died. She and Paul had a feeling about that trip, called it intuition. She wanted them to have these when they were old enough. I also have the location of Paul and Lily's graves. When you're ready, perhaps you might want to take the girls to visit." Ronald looked at this man who'd spent 5 years searching, who'd never given up. "Mr. Green, thank you. Thank you for not forgetting them." The attorney's eyes glistened. "How could I not? Paul was my best friend. Lily was like a sister to me. When they died, I made a promise to find their girls and protect them. I wish I'd found them sooner, before Nika." You found them when they needed to be found, Ronald said firmly, and they're safe now. That's what matters. 1 month later, on a bright spring morning, Ronald drove Andre and the twins to the cemetery. The grass was green, dotted with wildflowers. The headstone was simple, but beautiful. Paul and Lily Williams, beloved parents, gone too soon. The twins knelt, placing white lilies on the grass. "Hi, Mom and Dad," Kelly said softly. "We're Kelly and Nellie. You probably don't remember us. We were so small when you left. But we want you to know we're okay now. We have a new dad. His name is Ronald. He saved us. He found us on Christmas Eve when we were freezing in the snow. He brought us home and gave us the best Christmas we ever had. And we have a brother, too," Kelly said. "Andre. He's the best brother in the whole world. He shares everything with us and makes us laugh." "We're safe now, Mom," Nellie whispered. "We're finally safe. And we're happy. We wish you were here, but we think you'd be proud of us. And we hope you're proud of Dad, too. He gave up so much to keep us." Ronald stood back, tears streaming down his face. Andre leaned against him, crying too. The twins rose and ran to them, and the 4 of them stood there, a family born not of blood, but of choice and courage and love. "Thank you," Ronald whispered to the sky, to Clara, to Paul and Lily, to whatever force had guided him down that snowy road. "Thank you for trusting me with them."
As they walked back to the car, Nellie slipped her hand into Ronald's. "Dad?" "Yes, sweetheart? Can we come back and visit again?" Ronald squeezed her hand, his heart full. "Anytime you want, honey." Kelly took his other hand. "And Dad, thank you for everything. For saving us, for loving us, for making us a family." Ronald knelt down, pulling all 3 children into a fierce hug. "You don't need to thank me. Being your dad, being part of this family, is the greatest gift I could ever receive. You 3 saved me just as much as I saved you." As they drove home, the radio playing softly, Andre chattering about a school project, the twins giggling in the back seat, Ronald felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. They'd all been broken by loss, by cruelty, by circumstances beyond their control. But somehow, in finding each other, they'd become whole again. And that was the greatest Christmas miracle of all. Friends, if this story touched your heart the way it touched mine, if it reminded you that love is a choice, family is who shows up, and sometimes the greatest gifts come wrapped in the hardest moments, please don't just watch and walk away. Hit that subscribe button and join our Soul Lift Stories family for more stories that restore your faith in humanity. Share this story with someone who needs to remember that kindness is never wasted. And remember, be the person who stops. Be the person who sees. Be the person who helps. You never know whose life you might save. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.